Colleen Ballinger has done an interview on Raven Simone's channel. Actually, the channel name is Tea Time with Raven and Miranda. Colleen Ballinger has decided to speak out about basically everything that has happened, or at least what happened in June of 2023. Now Colleen Ballinger became very famous for her portrayal of Miranda Sings. And Miranda Sings is, I guess, a character that she created that intentionally, she sings off key, overly confident girl who believes that she's destined for fame. She's known for like red lipstick, quirky mannerisms. And, she's got this like haters back off attitude, right? The character, this Colleen made popular, became popular on YouTube. And then later, she had her own Netflix series. Okay. So this is kind of what she's been known for. And this is where she created the fandom. And a lot of the fandom were like young kids to preteens to even teens started following her, and she kind of grew a huge fandom from this, and some still follow her till this day. For those that have no idea who and what happened to Colleen Ballinger, there were allegations against Colleen regarding grooming, inappropriate interactions with her underage fans. Several former fans, including Adam McIntyre, shout out to Adam, he actually publicly spoke about this. Colleen Ballinger would form like unusually close relationships and private relationships with her minor fans. Okay. She allegedly would share personal information with them that would blur the boundaries, right, between fan and celebrity. Some fans said that she engaged with them in conversations that felt overly intimate or inappropriate for their age. In this interview, she does kind of admit to the engagement and kind of her part in this situation. Colleen Ballinger has always denied any kind of sexual intent behind this engagement. She has said that, the relationships and all these interactions have been like a big misunderstanding. And they were attempts for her to have friendships, although clearly inappropriate and handled poorly. Okay. Other allegations have included sending one of the big ones. I think I'm just like, how do you not know this? But okay. She was sending a minor lingerie as a gift. Okay. Now it wasn't her personal lingerie, but I believe it was like the Miranda Sings character. Okay. And I believe that this is the allegation that came from, Adam McIntyre specifically when he was 14 years old. Colleen acknowledged this happened. She said that it was meant to be a joke. Not something with harmful intent. There are people that would argue differently. Other allegations that have been put out there is basically that her live shows were just filled with inappropriate content, which included certain suggestive and sexualized things and content. Other allegations have included that she's, been very manipulative, exploitation, encouraging her close secret fans to just be, loyal to her and a level of secrecy, not to talk about certain things, and group chats with fans and whatnot. A lot of people have expressed that they felt emotionally manipulated or pressured by her. Instead of addressing like all of these allegations head on, as I would think most adults would do, she decided to do a video with a ukulele that she now regrets, which she talks about. Okay. Now, I have some issues with this interview here because, you know, um, it's no shade to Raven Simone and Miranda and Tea Time and all that other stuff. They interview a lot of people, clearly people that they've had connections with or they've talked to. It sounds to me that they offered her this opportunity to address the allegations on her terms, right? But I do kind of wonder if the people that have spoken out against Colleen, if they were they contacted about, how they would feel about this, how this would land. To be fair, like there have been no criminal charges against Colleen Ballinger or even a civil lawsuit, which I find to be surprising. I mean, I do want to know how come, given the extent and what has been put out there. But I don't know if I like the way in which Raven and Miranda talked about this. There's moments where Colleen is justifying some of the behavior, and both Miranda and Raven are like allowing her to justify certain behaviors. And so it makes me wonder if they truly understand the impact that this has had on the people that came out and made the allegations. And like I said, if this woman has not been held responsible either criminally or civilly, then, okay, this is her side of the story. This is how she feels. And to a certain degree, she's allowed to shift the narrative the way that she wants to. But what bothers me is that piece right there that you'll see, and I'll stop it every once in a while, where I notice that there's this like shifting of the narrative for her, or at least trying to pacify her. I don't know what it is, but maybe that's just me. Let's get into the review of this. Colleen, literally, I think the first 14 or 15 minutes of this, they get into her background, what got her to where she's at, why Miranda, just a little bit history of Miranda Sings and whatnot, and how she used YouTube, the platform, and social media. But I really want to get to the part where Raven and Miranda are asking her about this cancellation. I'll give some commentary and stop it every once in a while. Let's go.
Humor was that of like a, mid-20s girl who was in theater and, with all my gay friends we were being like silly and ridiculous and crude, but the people watching me, they liked that style of comedy and that style of humor.
You said that Miranda Sings, you had a good 20-year run. 20-year run with that. You got a Netflix show, girl? I ain't even had a Netflix show. God damn. I'm sorry. You had thank you.
Yep.
I can do anything. You had a 20-year run. You explained that you hustled to make that character what it was. And then the world imploded. And then you got canceled. And then you had all these accusations and a lot of voices come through the screen that had been rooting for you for so long. You had the rug pulled out from underneath you. We will get into those and kind of talk a little bit about some of the comments people have made and how certain...
That is such like I hear Raven reviewing this, but just the way in which she's kind of breaking this down to, of course they're only interviewing for an hour, but it's like, and then you were canceled and you had the rug pulled under you. And then we're going to get to the tough questions, guys. This is the tough questions part.
Situations have made watchers and viewers feel. But I first want to ask you, when you first got that ting about, oh no, something is going astray, what happened personally, internally to you?
It was kind of a slow build. And I feel like I felt it brewing for a little bit first, it was.
I think she knew this was coming as far as the people speaking out against her. And honestly, for those that don't know Colleen Ballinger, I mean, it's really quick to do a deep dive on her and you can understand why people felt some type of way about her. This is somebody who catered to children, young adults, and maybe that's not what she wanted to do, or teenagers, but that's not what she wanted to do, but that's what that character that she created did.
A very jarring experience. And first, I think I should say, when my audience kind of grew and it went from this older audience to, it spread and there was now a lot more teens watching me, I didn't adjust my comedy very much because I was like, well, they found me doing this, so this is what they like and this is what I like, so I'm going to keep doing the comedy they like. And I did adjust it a little bit over time. But one thing that I didn't do, and I should have been much more careful about, is I didn't adjust my interactions with my fans. And that's something I regret a lot because, like I said earlier, the difference between me and a mainstream celebrity, at least in the beginning, was that I was attainable and look, she'll talk to us.
And that's the thing is like some of these celebrities, as far as the ones that start on YouTube, they are pretty reachable. Like you could reach out to content creators, entertainers on YouTube. They are attainable. But with her saying that she didn't adjust her interactions with their fans, what does that mean exactly? Like sending underwear, prop underwear, whatever it was, because this is what she says. That's beyond that. Like some of this, I'm like, maybe she just didn't understand boundaries, but I'm not going to excuse her behavior because this is her words, right?
She'll interact with us and she's talking to us from her living room. She'll talk about anything. And she's so open and she'll talk one-on-one with us. She meets us in person at her shows and whatnot. And we know her, and I didn't think about that there, when I was interacting with my fans, I didn't think about a power dynamic that could have been there. I didn't think about a parasocial relationship. And I should have been more responsible in thinking about that. But I didn't even think of myself that way. I was like, yeah, we are friends. Like, I think I felt the same way. And so for me, I was like, well, I'm just talking to my friends. I talk to all of them like they're my friends, my sisters, all the fans. And I definitely should have been more careful with the way I was joking with them and the things I was saying to them.
Do you feel like not having a team earlier in your career hindered you from making better decisions?
I definitely wish I had someone to give me advice. I was with that group of like the first.
She didn't have a team earlier. And that's what Raven is asking her. Like, did that maybe allowed you to make more mistakes? Here's my thing though. Like, let me keep it 1,000. She's a mom. I'm a mom. A lot of you guys that are probably watching this are moms or have children or are taking care of children. And the question for me, it's like, how would you, Colleen Ballinger, how would you feel if somebody is in proximity to your children the way in which you were with others, and they start violating these boundaries, and that other person, right, starts seeing your children as friends, and I just hang out with them, we're close, I don't need these kinds of boundaries, right? How would you feel about that? And it's really like when you put the person in the movie role and allow them to play the movie forward, that you kind of, maybe people start evaluating things a little bit different. She's got children. She would never, I bet you she would never want anything like this to happen to her children. But there were people that were children, okay, that were affected by that are now adults, and they're speaking out about it. One being Adam McIntyre, others as well.
First YouTubers that kind of like rose to any sort of stardom or fame, in the beginning. So it's not like there were people before me doing this that I could look to and ask questions about. This was a new thing. Yeah. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. There's plenty of other people who rose to fame who didn't interact with their fans.
It sounds like everything you were doing online was from a place of trying to please your fans and connect with your fans and
not lose them.
Another thing I want to point out, and I think that this is the thing, it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I've said this before on this channel when we're covering true crime cases, right? Specifically of women. If Colleen was a man, this man was doing all kinds of things, leveraging his power and position, and getting close to the fans, right? Doing all these kinds of things. People would look at him different, right? But because Colleen is a woman, I think that it lands a little bit different. People have yet to really understand and wake up how both men and women can display predatory kinds of behaviors or grooming kinds of behaviors or lack boundaries, right? Like this is a real thing. And I think that's one thing we can learn from this, is that even though Colleen being a woman and she's a mom, she's got her children, you still got to be careful with all of that. It's the same thing as you should be careful with any adult, man or woman. I think that that's the biggest red flag for me, is that it's easier for people to point, the awkwardness of a man or a male behaving this way versus a woman. If people had maybe noticed something about how she was interacting with their fans and didn't say anything, or if they did say something, how was that handled? I feel like I read an article when all of this kind of went out that people were being swayed to not speak out about certain things as it pertains to Colleen. So
why didn't I think more about this? Why didn't I think more about, a parasocial relationship? But
do you have answers to those questions?
I think it all boils down to me just really wanting to make them, the people pleasing tendency of like, I want to do this because this will make, they're begging me
you wanted them to love you.
I wanted them to love me. I wish I'd listened more when all of it happened. I was so caught up in the things that weren't true that were being said about me that I feel like I wasn't listening to the things that were true and the things that I did make mistakes doing and take responsibility for those things. Instead, I was like, well, they're saying all these other things about me that are lies and that's not true. And I was angry about those things. And I wish that I had just paused and listened for a second.
There's a lot of things that were said about you. There's been allegations of grooming behavior, or what do you think they're talking about?
Very fair. That was allegations. And, like I personally think that people have a very weird definition of grooming. Okay. And I even think that she also doesn't necessarily understand understand the meaning of that. I don't think she does. Okay. Grooming specifically, right? In a criminal context, if we're looking at it this way, even though Colleen Ballinger has not been charged or civilly sued for any of the things that came out, but we're talking about grooming, we're talking about a calculated, manipulative process, okay, that a person, the groomer, is using to gain the victim's trust and emotional connection. And usually it's for the purposes of like sexual exploitation, abuse, sometimes financial abuse, trafficking, or other illegal acts, right? And you have this power imbalance, and that power imbalance allows you to have control over the victim to facilitate abuse while avoiding being detected, right? Somebody like Colleen Ballinger, Drake Bell, all these people are in a position of power based on the celebrity part that they have gained. YouTube, whatever you want to put it on. I don't really know if she understands what the definition is, or maybe she does and she's just like, I want to make it clear I never did that.
That's the one that got me the hardest. When that allegation came up, that's when I was out. I was done, because that was devastating and shocking. It was very shocking because I know that my intention and my actions have never been fueled with the desire to manipulate or groom anybody ever. That has never been something I have done or will ever do. And it's a very serious accusation.
Very serious.
She's not acknowledging it. She's never done it. Would never do. She said that is something that got her in. Again, when there is a power imbalance, the person that has the power, are they able to truly see the imbalance of it? I just don't know if she gets that, honestly. She can deny it. Nobody wants to be called that. I mean, you have children, right? And then your brand caters to youth, teen, children, whatever, young adults. So yeah, this is not a good label, and I wouldn't expect her to accept any of that. First of all, she's never been criminally charged or civilly, but I wouldn't expect her to accept that, because that just wouldn't fall in line with her, right? It just wouldn't.
So when those kind of words started being thrown around, that's when I kind of was, I kind of shut down, and that was devastating to hear. And, you asked, what does that mean to other people? That's why this was a hard thing for me to know how to navigate, because it wasn't about what did she do or what didn't she do. It was more about what was her intention behind some of these actions, I think. And my intention was being decided for me by people talking about it. My intention wasn't to hurt or do anything negative ever. Now, that doesn't mean that
people talking about it that were exposing how they felt or what they had to expose, right? And I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if you guys have watched Adam McIntyre's reaction video to this, where it's kind of like, even Adam McIntyre saying like, this lady is still throwing shade at us, somewhat mentioning us, like there's still subliminal shade towards the people that spoke out.
weren't hurt.
Right.
And that's the part that I wish I had paid more attention to. But I obviously didn't handle the situation the way that I should have. And it's really embarrassing. I wish that I could handle it a lot differently than I did.
When you say that, are you talking about like the apology?
Talking about a musical instrument that I should have not picked up. Yes, I mean, I should have listened to what people were saying, and I should have.
I think people want an apology. I think people want for you to acknowledge the things that happened on stage. I hope that you give that to them.
I agree with you. I think that they do want an apology, and I am sorry. And
This was awkward for me to watch. Because Colleen is telling us, listen, I didn't handle it well, whatever, the ukulele, the song, I didn't handle that. I should have listened. And then kind of Raven just interrupts and is like, I think people want you to apologize. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Like, that's what they want. They've been wanting that. What she did with that video was so distasteful. And yet it still gained her a lot of momentum. There are people that are going to support Colleen Ballinger. And I know a lot of people, they're like, well, was this really a big deal? What do we know? Yada, yada, yada. There are people that try to minimize the side of the people that have spoken out, right? Instead of interrupting, you have to let people sit and marinate and reflect a little bit more. And so then she's like, I do apologize. I do. If that is the case, and I don't know if Raven or Miranda have reached out to the people that made the allegations to give their side of the story, to offer them a platform where they can interview. I don't know if that was done, but that probably would have, maybe even before bringing this topic up on my channel, I probably would have consulted, because that's what you do. You get the other side before you bring on, and then that way they would have known, maybe, this is what this person said. What do you feel about this question and that question? That's just my thought on that.
And here's the thing is, when you mess up and when you make a mistake and do something wrong, sometimes you got to keep apologizing for it. And that's what I should have done. Like, and people keep saying it's an apology song. I didn't apologize in that thing.
You did not.
I did not.
You know what?
There
You are
was
correct. You
no
did not
sorry in
apologize.
that.
You did not. I was actually laughing. So that was some crazy penmanship.
We also
Well, it's interesting that you can laugh, but like, no, it was a shit show. I still remember, and I remember talking about it on this channel. I was like, this woman literally got a ukulele and made fun of what's been said, and said it was called the toxic train. And even if, and I hate to put it this way, but even if those allegations are, maybe they're not all the way 1000, maybe there's something that's off. Allowing space and the opportunity to say, you know what, I need to understand how I made the other person feel. I don't have a good gauge, and maybe I need to get help for this. No, you sat there and you grab a ukulele and you sang a song. And then that shit went viral. People took this as just another episode of Miranda Sings, that this is what it is, except without the lipstick, and there was no laughing matter. It actually made a lot of people sick.
when in watching it, I remember one of the things that we talked about was it felt like you were angry.
Yeah,
I was.
and burnt out and just
Fed up.
Yeah, fed up.
I was.
Yeah.
And it's
No, she was angry and entitled. She sounded angry and entitled to me. Like, it's almost like, why are they talking about me? Like, why me? And they don't stop. I mean, listen to the freaking lyrics of The Toxic Train. See if we can pull some of these up. Toxic Gossip Train. That's what it was. She says, hey, it's been a while since you saw my face. I haven't been doing so great, so I took a little break. A lot of people are saying some things about me that aren't quite true. So she wasn't even acknowledging that. So there was no way that was an apology. Doesn't matter if it's true, though, just as long as it's entertaining to you, right? You guys are having fun all aboard the toxic gossip train, chugging down the tracks of misinformation. The toxic gossip train. You got a one-way ticket to manipulation station. You literally, with this song, told people that they're lying on you, that they're lying on you. That's what you did. Toxic gossip train. Tie me to the tracks and harass me for my pass. What pass? Those rumors look like facts if you don't mind the gaps. Well, was it a rumor that you sent underwear to Adam McIntyre? Was it a rumor? Now, this is interesting. Trisha Paytas spoke about this. She literally called Colleen Ballinger inhumane for allegedly sending only fan photos of her to her underage fans. My friends, what part of that was a lie? And what part of this is funny? This is the shit that really gets to me about this interview. Come on, Raven-Symoné. Come on, Miranda. Like, y'all got to do better than this, because this woman, and I know you got to keep it cute. I saw that they also interviewed Drake Bell, and they didn't really touch on the court stuff and all that other stuff that happened, but they're very selectively touching on things, right? And it's supposed to be an exclusive to tell her side. When you tell your side, I mean, put a name on it, put an address on it, say what it is. Maybe then people can think that there's that she's actually being genuine about things and not minimizing things, because that song wasn't an apology song. It was a way in which she could go viral.
very clear that I was angry. And that's why I keep saying I wish that I had just paused for a second and listened to my fans, to my supporters.
And process.
Because while there were things being said about me that weren't true, my people who would support me for so many years, that I'm up here saying, like, I just wanted them to be happy. I wanted to make them happy. Well, they wanted an explanation. They wanted to understand what's going on. And they deserved that. And I didn't give it to them. Instead, I was angry and sang a song, and which is crazy.
It blew shit up.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It was.
I'm aware.
Okay, just letting you know, that was crazy, bro.
Absolutely crazy. And I think, when the dust.
I can't do this. First of all, it's very hard for me to take the situation serious. They're literally surrounded by fake flowers and pots. There's a teapot right there. I know I got a fake rabbit and all this, and it's bedazzled, okay? But this is a serious topic, and y'all are surrounded by fake flowers and teapots.
Did settle because I like you were saying, I did want to address it, and I was being told. I got a lot of advice from a lot of people, and the majority of the advice was don't say anything. And I'm sure you know from being in the
Honey,
industry
I
for
tell
so
her
long.
all the time, don't say nothing.
Right. Don't address it. Don't say anything. It will just make it worse. Don't address it. Don't say anything. It'll just make it worse. But I'm a different position than a traditional celebrity because people watch me because I was so open and I talked about everything. I mean, I talked about everything like that. I've been through my mental health and my births and my.
And when you take the stance of talking about everything, people are going to expect you to address this and say, like, let's just put it this way. Say the reason that she didn't talk about it is because she didn't want to open herself to liability. Okay, I can get that, right? Maybe her PR people are telling her, don't talk about this. Maybe make a statement through your attorney, something like that. I'm sure an attorney would have probably helped her make a statement. And if he saw that she was going to go on a video with the ukulele, probably would have told her not to do that. She felt that all of this was gossip when these allegations are very serious. She addresses it, it would probably open her up for litigation.
Pregnancies in my journey to fame, everything I've been through, I've talked about online very openly. And so, my audience, that was one of the reasons they liked watching me. And so then to suddenly be like, not only am I not going to talk about this, I'm going to sing this song about it. And it was such a choice.
It was such a choice.
I very much.
Such a choice, bro.
Yes. And so,
but it's not funny. That's the thing. Like, it's not, I'm sorry. Like this is not funny. I just don't think it is, especially. Yeah, I think this is what's getting to me is that people coming forward or even people making allegations of grooming or any kind of allegations, they are not taken serious anymore. I don't know what it is, guys, and I've noticed this shift in how people take some of this stuff serious or not, what they make of it. The fact that they're laughing about this should have been handled different. This is such a horrible interview.
I think, I was like getting so frustrated because I was just like, let me just address this. Like, please let me just talk. I just want to talk about this. And so finally after I posted the video, it was shortly after I posted it, I was talking to someone on the phone from my team. And I was like, oh, that was a huge mistake. That was really stupid. It was like, there was so much, I have to say something. And finally I let it out.
What does regret feel like?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Because because you want to fix it. You can't fix it.
And by the way, I am going to be skipping through some of this. I'm not reviewing this whole thing, but feel free to watch it. I'm just giving commentary and my thoughts under fair use.
So where do you think your mind went during that time that you were so unable, I guess, to have the perspective you have now?
Were you trying
She just answered it. She was mad. That's what she said.
to save a character? Were you trying to save yourself? Were you trying to?
Were you just like completely
blacked out in anger?
Self-preservation. Listen to the lyrics of the song. The song in itself tells you that this is misinformation. Okay, just as long as you guys are entertained. And this is the toxic gossip train. And it's one-way ticket to manipulation. The song tells you where she stood.
Disconnected from it. And you're like, I'm just going to do this because I'm pissed.
I feel like it was a little bit of all of it. I mean, it was really overwhelming to, have these words thrown around in connection to me and my name that are really horrible. I mean, that's a horrible thing to be and to be accused of when you know that you are not that, especially because in my opinion, that's one of the worst things a person can be. It probably is. And so to be accused of that, knowing that I'm not that.
Are you speaking of grooming?
Grooming. Grooming and in any way harming
Children.
Yeah. Is the opposite of something or someone I am or ever would want to be.
She doesn't want to own that. And that's, that is on her, right? Again, she's not been criminally charged or civilly held liable. She does not want to own that part of the behavior, okay?
And so to be connected to those words was devastating. It still is. And and that's something that will
it will follow you around.
It will.
It will follow you around.
It will.
There were moments in your live shows where there were children brought up on stage and you were, as showbiz says, going for the funny in a lot of moments. However, looking back at moments, there is another person on the internet who is saying that when she went up on stage for your live show, she was a part of the yoga challenge section of your show.
This is horrible.
it made them feel gross. Later in life, they were SA'd, and when they look back at that moment with you, they feel similar feelings. Can you dive a little bit deeper into what happened at the yoga challenge?
And I genuinely never thought of it as a sexual or inappropriate thing. To me, the joke was that when the legs were open to do the pose, the fart sound effect came on screen. So it was like once the legs opened up, there was a fart sound.
So mind you, like some of these parents were going to these shows. Where the hell were the parents while all this is going on a stage? Sometimes I'm like, y'all know what's going on or what?
I'm really proud of anyone who's been able to come forward and express that, because I want.
But are you really? I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that. Again, I think that this is just, this is her side, right? What she feels, her side of the story.
Do you feel like you have a different perspective now between, let's say, like bad judgment and harmful behavior?
I definitely do. Yeah, I certainly think that and especially now, now that I'm a mom.
Bad judgment versus harmful behavior. Is that the question? I just want to understand. Do you feel like you have a different, and that's why I have the transcript up, by the way. Do you feel like you have a different perspective now between, let's say, like bad judgment and harmful behavior?
Obviously, every choice I make, I think about how it could affect my children. And I wish that I went into my interactions with my fans with that same mindset of,
yeah, how can it affect my children? But what about other people's children, right? That's who it affected, right? This behavior. Other people's children, not your children. Later on in life, you become a mom, you start thinking about your children. You start thinking about, man, like I did this. What if this happens to my children? But you don't think about other people's children.
Did parents ever confront you after? Did you ever get any kind of interaction with an adult who said, this didn't feel good for me and my child?
No, I never did personally. I don't know if someone got that message and I never received it. The only complaint I ever remember receiving in that way, in person from a live show or anything, was at the beginning of my shows. I used to do a ukulele song, where I would
damn ukulele.
I know, where I would sing the hate comments that I received, and there was hate comments, so there was a lot of bad language, and the comments were on the screen, and I would sing them, and we did get some complaints about that. They were like, you're saying bad words like in the first 5 minutes of the show, and I have my young kid here, whatever. And so then I changed it. I bleeped the words on the screen and I bleeped the audio of it too, so that you couldn't hear or see it. And we also changed on the website everywhere, like, this is a PG-13 show, like, making sure everyone knew that this was not a kid show.
PG-13 is a kid show. And it sounds like she did receive some complaints, right? She said, it's weird because the way she answers this question, she says, well, no, not directly unless somebody else did, right?
Time is interesting. Time is really interesting because if you go back in time for entertainment, there's been many a comedian, many a entertainer that has done things in their early career that when they look back on, they wish they didn't, because culture changes. While people were laughing with you and quote unquote at you because of the character, it must feel so like two-faced.
You know what? I agree with Raven on this one, but that's what we're seeing right now. Back then, raunchy jokes were okay. There was a culture acceptance of it, or at least if you knew, you just didn't really say anything, especially if you don't want to ruin your career. But where I'm getting at is like right now, Raven's like talking about, well, back then, it was this and the time changes. I feel like we're seeing it right now where it's like there is some inappropriate behavior that Colleen Ballinger at least admits to it here. Not that she's owning it, that she admits to it, right? And this platform has platformed the opportunity for her to give excuses and not necessarily maybe even interview those victims that were impacted by her behaviors. Yeah, like there is, and it's not just this platform, it's other things that are happening, even more on a political side, right? Where we're looking away from things that have been alleged, excusing behaviors, allowing things to be okay. Well, that happened around that time, in 2010. We didn't know that was bad. That happened around this time. There was a shift at some point when the Me Too movement started where people were getting called out, especially the music industry. And now the shift has become, well, these allegations might have been founded in court, but guess what? It's okay. You're able to do X, Y, and Z because this is what it is. And that's just my thought on the matter. And I'm not saying that I'm correct, but I mean, they're even doing it right now. They've offered her a platform to tell her side. Okay. All right.
So you have admitted to sending lingerie to an underage fan. And I know you've talked about this before, but I would like to ask you one more time to address this and kind of what happened and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, what an idiot. Is how I feel about it now. I think it was like 10 years ago, something like that. I was doing a live stream, and I always loved giving away gifts to my fans online. So I would send them like a bobby pin of Miranda's or a lipstick of Miranda, an old shirt, Usually it was to encourage them to donate to a charity event that I would do every year. But I loved giving out stuff. And so I was doing a live stream like I did pretty often, and I was opening up a box of clothes that I had bought, and in it was this underwear bra set that I didn't order, and we were all laughing about it. So everyone in the chat was laughing about it, me and my friend, and he actually put it on over his clothes and was like, look at this, and we were laughing about it. And there are people in the comments saying, oh, send that to me, send that one to me. And we were like, we're not going to do that, that's crazy. But then there's one fan in particular who kept asking us to send it, and I was like, obviously you can tell in the live, like I'm like hesitant about it because there is a little bit of brains in there somewhere that was like, maybe not, because I hesitated. But then I was like, and I didn't send it. I didn't. But then it just became an inside joke with the fandom, and everyone was like telling me to send it, and he kept asking for it. It was like months of this. And so finally I did, and it was very public and as a joke. And it was like a part of my brain was missing.
Wait. So there was part of her that was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do it. And I believe, listen, if my understanding is that the underwear went to Adam McIntyre. Okay. Part of her was like, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know, maybe whatever. Like, what? So this is the part that I don't understand, right? Because she says that she didn't really have anybody. Like the first question was from, I think it was Raven, who asked her, did you have anybody in your corner earlier on when you started? And she said, no, I didn't. So if she didn't have anybody in her corner, like when did she realize some of these things were not okay? I guess that's my thing. Was it when people started exposing her? That's when she realized it? I don't know about this story, guys.
An action of like, hey, this is not a good idea. This looks bad. It wasn't a pair of my something that I sent to a young fan in an inappropriate way, but it was inappropriate. Like, what part of me thought like, everyone will know this is a silly joke in the fandom. Like I wish I'd never done that. That was so inappropriate. And if he was made to feel uncomfortable because of that, like I feel terrible, and I'm so sorry, because that was not my intention with that. I thought it was like a silly inside joke with the whole fandom. It was all very public, and I thought it was a silly thing, and it was so stupid.
It's also it's like it's this glossing over, right? Very quickly. It's crazy.
So difficult, I think, in that specific situation when you feel like you're being given permission, if you will, because everyone is saying kind of the same thing. Everyone seems in on the joke. Everyone seems to understand it. Everyone is saying, send it. And then you have this person not dropping it after that, but continuing the conversation weeks after this has happened. I can see where you don't think about potential negative consequence because...
Wait, who gave them permission? Who consented? How are you being given permission? And mind you, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that it was Adam McIntyre with the underwear situation. So and Adam was a minor. So who consented to that? And there was permission because everybody was okay in making fun of the situation. This is the crazy part. This woman is in her 30s, guys. Like, she was an adult when all of this went down. I'm telling you, if this was a man, this would be looking a little bit different. But because it's Colleen Ballinger, this is why there's this like pacifying her and excusing the behavior. If this was a Tom or a Richard or a whatever doing these kinds of things with fans, I'm telling you, you wouldn't get this fluffiness from this interview. You wouldn't get the teapots and the flowers. No, you wouldn't.
Because in that moment, it feels pure.
And you're not sending it in a sexual manner.
No. Well, and I appreciate that.
Well, how do you know? And you're not sending it in a sexual manner. How do you know? How do you know that that's not the case? How do you know that? Presume to know how it's received. Like, how do you assume that? How do you assume that to the person that's receiving it? How do you assume that to the people around? Like, this is crazy work.
But at the same time, like, it was my responsibility to know. Yeah, I shouldn't send this. This could look really bad. And this could make people uncomfortable. Yeah. Yes. That's where, even though it doesn't matter how many people were egging it on or asking for it, begging for it, and thinking it was so funny and everyone, seems like this joke, I should have.
If one of my kids receives a pair of underwear, right? Whoever the hell it may be that they're following, first of all, let me not find out that they're in a group chat with adults, right? With these kinds of adults that, are doing this kind of stuff. If I find out that one of these, people in a celebrity status is sending underwear, whether it's a prop or personal, we're going to have a problem. Yes, we are. It's not funny. Maybe you should have sent it to the adult, the parent, to determine if it would be funny. But I don't think it's funny. I'm telling you right now.
I've taken a second and been like, maybe send a bobby pin.
Yeah.
Like this is not the thing to send to someone. This is not something
Not a
that...
bobby pin. A silver one or a black one?
Well, I think I usually use the black ones.
Yeah,
Miranda,
the brown one, that's
black
cute.
threads.
Something else, Colleen, that has come up and been discussed is the fact that you would participate in group chats with your fans, and there were minors in those chats, and there would be questions regarding their virginity and sex positions.
Right.
Inappropriate questions are being asked to underage people. What was going on?
You tell me that's not grooming. An adult woman having these kinds of conversations. You tell me that's not grooming.
That's true. It's completely inappropriate. And I used to do this weekly question and answer thing with my audience. And that particular group chat was full of a bunch of different fans of all ages, but they were crass and funny and ridiculous. And they would, whenever I asked for questions for my channel, they would ask me questions like that. They would ask me questions they knew I wouldn't answer, that were over the top, inappropriate. So when one of them,
they were asking her questions, and why didn't you just say, you know what, little boy, little girl, you probably want to have a conversation with your parent about this. This is just so wrong. And like I said, they're just going by this so quickly that this is so not okay. And I feel so bad for the people that came out making allegations, because it's almost like they're minimizing it. It's crazy.
this part of the conversation is now deleted. Those parts of the conversations are deleted or gone or somehow, I don't know. But when they asked for questions for theirs, I was trying to do the same jokes that they had just previously been doing with me. Stupid and inappropriate. Shouldn't have done it. I feel really embarrassed and stupid. And
Did you know they were underage at the time?
I knew that there were teenagers in the chat. Yeah, I did know that. And I also...
Did you know there were? So was she asking these? The question was, were you asking these inappropriate questions to your underage audience? Raven asked, did you know that they were underage? The question already asked if they were underage. Yes, she knew that they were underage. And I mean, she does say it, teenagers. There's this thing where even when she says about, well, some of the shows are going to be PG-13, as if they're still not minors. Like, it's just a weird way to kind of hold this conversation.
Thought, well, they all know I'm not serious. I don't want the answers to these questions. They all know that I'm just joking around, like they do this to me, and they know I'm not going to answer the questions. I know they don't want the answers. Like, I thought like this was, it was clear between all of us that like I was joking. I didn't actually want this information from this person. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny to ask a really absurd, crazy question. And there were a bunch of questions I asked. Those were just a few of the awful ones that I did. And I should have never done that. That was crazy of me.
It wasn't in a grooming fashion.
Absolutely not. It wasn't in a grooming fashion. Raven, Miranda, did you guys contact the people that have spoken out against Colleen Ballinger? Did you contact, I don't know, Adam McIntyre? Did you contact anybody else to ask them how they felt about these specific things that happened to them that they allege? She's not denying any of it, right? Like she's minimizing it, but you guys aren't asking the people that were impacted. It wasn't in a grooming fashion or a statement. It wasn't in a grooming fashion. And of course her answer is going to be absolutely not. It was stupid fashion. Stupid fashion. It was like it's a stupid fashion versus a grooming fashion. Okay, girl.
Laugh?
For the laugh. I thought it would make them laugh. I thought they'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Ha ha ha. Like how they did with me often. They were very funny. That group chat of all these different guys. They're very funny, very dedicated, wonderful people.
So my thing is like, was she always in her mind, and I hate to put it this way, but I'm not going to make excuses for her, was she always in character? So even in the group chats, even if she wasn't on stage, she's always Miranda Sings in the group chat, offline, in conversation with others. She's always this person, this character that she is not. So then that permits her to be inappropriate. That has permitted her to say things to her fans, send things to her fans, inappropriate.
being one of the kids.
Yeah, right.
And you had forgotten.
Yeah,
so
right.
you were acting more like one of your kid viewers versus remembering that you were actually the adult in the chat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that lends itself to the power dynamic that you had referenced earlier, where you kind of had lost the awareness of that relationship or dynamic.
There was no part of me that was wanting that information truly from them. I wasn't trying to get anything out of them. I was just trying to be like one of them, which is embarrassing to admit because that was not my responsibility in that time. I was trying to be silly like them and be their friend, when in reality I was the one who's supposed to be the responsible one. I was the adult there that should have never participated in that conversation and should have never joked with them about that kind of stuff.
We see this kind of behavior when of teachers, I've seen this before, and we've talked about these kinds of cases where teachers break the boundaries with students. They try to be one of them or at their level, and they do so by, maybe joking and making fun and doing different things. And I want to make sure we understand this, right? I want to make sure that we're clear that there was at least 5 people that made allegations against Colleen Ballinger. We'll talk more about that here in a minute.
There's the power dynamic there, that parasocial relationship that I wasn't thinking about, which was irresponsible of me. Like, I should have been thinking about that, and I should have removed myself from that chat immediately when they were joking about things that were inappropriate. I shouldn't have ever participated in those conversations. And it was rare that I was in there talking to them, but that is one of the moments where I did interact, and I wish that I hadn't.
And I want to keep people aware that we really do have to be careful in how we throw stones at people when we don't know the entire story, when there is a culture within the entertainment industry that not a lot of people understand.
So much has happened.
So Raven gives this like a PSA, like we got to be careful about throwing stones because we don't know the full story. Yeah, okay. I guess I don't know how I feel about that. And again, some of this I have skipped over. Feel free to watch the whole interview. I just felt like this interview was not a good one. Not a good one at all.
And I can only imagine that having to absorb and internalize all of this, a lot of it must have made you have to change. I want to know about some of these changes you've gone through since the height of the controversy.
I mean, I hope it made her change. I think that would be great. She needs to change.
Well, I'm much more anxious now, and I've been through so much therapy. And I also just think I go into kind of everything with a different perspective than I did before. I mean, when I responded to everything, I was really thinking about the whole situation from my perspective, obviously. Like, these people have shifted their opinion who were laughing with me and now they're not. And instead of thinking about like, well, why? I was like, that's not fair, and which was the wrong reaction. And so now I look at things a lot differently, just in general in life, even if I feel I have been wronged in any way or whatever, my go-to now isn't like that person's wronged me. It's what are they going through? Why did they say that? What's the root here? Because I think with everything that I went through and everything that I was canceled for, I was so caught up in the things that weren't true, and well, they're missing the context of this, and that was taken out of context there, and this was deleted from this, and I wanted to explain everything and prove that I wasn't this horrible person, this monster. But like in my response, I kind of proved I was kind of like
Dismissive.
Yeah, dismissive. And so, I've learned to take a beat and try to.
This interview right here is dismissive, and I don't necessarily know if it's, definitely from Colleen's side, but also from the people holding the interview. I feel like it's very dismissive of the people that have come out and said what they felt and how they were impacted. I personally think that this is a very dismissive interview.
What's the root here? Why is this person hurt?
Yeah.
And how can I help them to feel better? And how can I explain this in the right way to help them feel safe and okay when they're not feeling good?
Well, that mindset definitely comes with maturity. That's something that we all have to learn. That's something that people aren't born with. That comes from trial and error. That comes from trauma. And that comes from a situation like what you have been through. Knowing that this lives online forever. How are you going to explain this to your children?
That's part of the reason why I'm here now. I kind of was at the mindset for so long, like, I just don't want to talk about it. I'm extremely non-confrontational, and I'm very anxious, and I will do absolutely anything to avoid a confrontation or avoid someone being upset with me, or to a fault. It's not something I love about myself. It's something that gets me in trouble. And so I don't want to continue to, bring it up for people that they don't, it might hurt them, or, I just feel like, people have said how they feel about me, and I'm just going to back away because that's what I think that people want at this point. It's kind of how I felt.
You are coming back around to not say, take me in again.
No.
But you're coming back around to say, I know what I did. I know what I need to change. I'm changing. You don't have to love me. You don't have to like me.
Right.
But you recognize what happened. And that.
So why doesn't she say that? Raven, why do you have to fill in those words? Why doesn't Colleen say that? And I get it. She says, I'm non-confrontational, but those words are not for her to repeat. They're for her to, that's for Colleen to come to terms with, to say.
Back around to not say, take me in again.
No.
But you're coming back around to say, I know what I did. I know what I need to change. I'm changing. You don't have to love me. You don't have to like me.
Right.
But you recognize what happened. And that
Right.
takes a lot of fucking courage.
I obviously wish I could go back and do everything differently in my
I don't know how I feel about that. I still feel like that is not, some of this is up to how the people that came out and made the allegations, how does this land with them versus putting in the words in her mouth and in Colleen's mouth because she can't seem to say them.
reactions to this whole situation. I feel terrible that I made anyone feel anything other than happy and safe in our little community online. And that's all I ever wanted. And I feel so terrible that I disappointed so many people. And I'm can't even talk.
You're okay. Take a beat.
Stressed. I should have thought a lot more about my interactions with my fans and how it could affect them. I should have been more responsible and thought about how these things could affect people, especially, the teenagers that were interacting with me. And I'm so now, in hindsight, like grateful and proud of these people for coming forward and saying, like, hey, this is not okay behavior. Because even though I know that I never wanted to hurt anyone and my intentions and my desires were nothing negative in my interactions with these people, that needed to be said. They needed to say, like, hey, this isn't okay, because there are people out there who they do have the intentions to hurt them, and they need to be able to say, like, this isn't okay, and I'm not standing for this, and like my heart was in the right place. It doesn't matter if people felt uncomfortable. I'm proud of them for saying, like, this wasn't okay and this made me uncomfortable, or this is not an okay thing to joke about, or whatever. That needed to happen. And I hope that anyone interacting with anyone online, whether it be a celebrity or a new friend or anyone, goes into it with that caution up of, like, what are these person's intentions, and assuming they're negative going into it, I feel like is a good thing to protect them.
Is she telling us, let me ask you guys in the chat, is she telling us what she thinks people want to hear or how she truly feels about the situation? I don't know. I'm on the fence on this kind of, and it's the last 5 minutes of this. I'm on the fence on this. I really am.
Them from
Real predators.
real
Yeah,
predators
real
who actually do
predators.
want to hurt them.
I'd be curious to know your thoughts on what you think your spirit is here to learn, because what you've had to endure
It's a big learning lesson.
it's a masterclass beyond. And it has, I think, brought you to your knees. It has made you, as you said, more anxious. It's shifted your perspective. You had to take 2 years away. You haven't been online. I mean, it really kind of changed your life. So what do you think the lesson is for your soul, your being on earth right now?
Thinking about the long term, as someone who thinks in the here right now, what will make people happy right now and make people like me right now, that doesn't always result in good things. Thinking in the long term and how is this going to snowball and affect people in the future it's a way I've never thought before, and it's something I'm still learning and working on, because it is my go-to to be like, how can I make this person happy right now? I just want, and that causes problems. You really need to be thinking about the other person's well-being and how it will affect them in the future.
Yeah.
And so that's something I've learned and I'm working on a lot.
It's apparent that you want to make amends, that you are taking responsibility for the things that you have done in the past that were not okay. And you've said, I'm sorry now, many, many times.
How is that apparent? And to who is it apparent to? When she says and I'm looking at the script, it's apparent, she says. It's apparent that you want to make amends and that you're taking responsibility for the things that you have done in the past and that you were not okay. How does she know it's apparent? To who is it apparent? To them or to the people that she hurt? That's what I want to know, because that's who matters, right? Is the apology to the fans? Is it the apology to the people that she hurt? Or is the apology to this podcast? I don't know.
Before being on this show and now many times today on the show. But I want to know, have you been able to / will you forgive yourself?
For some things, I think. And that's one of the things I've learned in the last 2 years is so much of my self-worth was based in the validation from my fans and making sure I was being entertaining and I was giving them what they wanted. And that was who I was as a person. So when that was taken away, I was like, then I'm nothing. So that was a really hard lesson for me to learn, to find peace and happiness and validation and be okay with myself with that not there, because you can't put your entire person and your whole validation in like what others think of you. And that's what I was doing with my fans. I wasn't anything without that.
Do you remember earlier when I asked you what your lesson was for your soul? That to me is actually the answer. That the person that you are, because you've struggled with your worth, because you've struggled with your confidence, it's like when you have those questions of, am I worthy enough to be here? If you're in this industry and you show weakness, that will be eaten alive.
Yeah.
Because people prey on that.
Right.
And
Hold up. Oh, you're killing me, girl. She says, do you remember earlier when I asked you what your lesson was for your soul? And I know she's getting upset right now. I just feel like, again, it's like, don't show a weakness online. Is that what we're saying? Or what are we saying here?
weakness, that will be eaten alive.
Yeah.
Because people prey on that.
Right.
And I think your soul's journey here is to learn that you're worthy and to really find peace in yourself
Right.
and love yourself. Because I tell you,
Well,
it's brutal.
I'm still working on that one.
I know.
I think like,
yeah.
you know,
If she's seeking validation, or at least she was, right, from her audience, then I could see where, her being quote unquote canceled, or her being, basically exposed the way that she was, and seems like she's a people pleaser, right? Then this had an effect on her majorly. I could see that, right, emotionally. But I also think that, again, some of these people were minors when they were exposed to some of this content. I don't know, man. I'm just going to say this. She's very lucky that nothing came out of, criminally or civilly. That's what I have to say. She, as far as her fans, her diehard fans, they're still out there. They're still, we can read some of these comments and you guys can see that they won't give up on her and stuff. So, she has those loyal supporters that will be okay with this.
I need to have everything that I need before I
Yeah. You need this.
make sure this is because I'm just want to clear the air and say my side of things without any like expectations or,
Or ukulele.
or ukulele. God, fuck that ukulele. Can I say that word?
You can say that word.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for coming and bearing your soul and being honest and addressing the concerns of others.
Thank you. Thanks for having me,
You
and
did
thanks
well.
for chatting with me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
So that's the end of that. The people that came forward and made allegations against Colleen Ballinger, you have Adam McIntyre, made allegations, I believe, in 2020, and then later made allegations in 2023. He brought more light to the claims that he had made. He claimed that Colleen formed an inappropriate and exploitative personal friendship with him when he was between 13 and 16 years old, used him for unpaid work, and sent him lingerie as a joke. That is who Colleen sent underwear to. Okay. Then you have somebody by the name of Cody, who's also a YouTuber, a former fan who shared alleged screenshots of messages in a group chat called Colleen's Weenies, in which Colleen Ballinger reportedly asked minors about their virginity, favorite sexual positions. Cody later deleted their video and social media accounts. Okay. You have a former fan by the name of Becky who spoke to the HuffPost, Rolling Stone, alleging that when she was 14 years old, it later corrected her age. Actually, she was 16. Colleen put her in a sexually violating and humiliating situation on stage during a live show for her yoga challenge joke. Then you have a former fan club owner by the name of Johnny. And he was a tour worker who claimed that Colleen sent unsolicited nude photos of fellow YouTuber and adult content creator Trisha Paytas to him and other fans, including minors, and hosted viewing parties to mock the content. They were making fun of Trisha Paytas. And let me be very clear. She is very lucky that she was not criminally charged here, because if you were showing OnlyFans material to children, I don't understand how that wasn't a criminal charge. I'm just going to say that. Trisha Paytas was not a fan, but Trisha confirmed that the allegations against her were true and condemned Ballinger alleged actions, stating that she was shocked and hurt when she heard about her sharing that material to minors. Who in their mind would have thought that this was okay? And this is what I'm saying. I'm like, well, then what is the Miranda Sings character? And this is what is very concerning to me about the way in which these two held this podcast interview. You guys could have done a better job than this if you wanted to visit this topic. And I know I'm being harsh, but I think I'm coming from a space of working with victims as a graduate social worker working in government. You know how you say that there's this combined thing about YouTube between celebrities and the regular schmegulars like us. We're the little people over here. We don't have this kind of production backing and any of those accolades behind us, but we are people that care. And I know that when Adam made his allegations, it certainly made me upset for a lot of reasons. And then all these other allegations that follow, because guess what? Miranda Sings is just one. You have a lot of people out there that have similar fandoms like she does and that run, Discord groups and group chats that do these kinds of things. And it's interesting because the comments on that video, let's go to the comments real quick because I wanted to see. I saw that some of them were not very favorable. Says Raven said they want you to apologize, and Colleen still hasn't said she's sorry, just over explaining everything. Okay. When you changed the title because you knew people hated that she wasn't sincere or even apologizing for what she did, what benefit did this give y'all aside from a new level of haters? And that's the thing, is like, y'all, this did not land very well. And I didn't even know they had interviewed Drake Bell 4 months ago. I haven't even watched that. I'm kind of curious to see what that looks like. This is sick. She is sick. Who starts a podcast with somebody they hate? She gave pictures of Trisha to underage people. She also body shamed her also. I understand why you did this podcast and her now. Trisha Paytas right now is unstoppable and her career is up there in SNL. So I do kind of have to wonder, why didn't they, or did Raven-Symoné and Miranda contact the people that made the allegations to at least offer them a platform? Hell, even tell them, guys, we're about to interview Colleen Ballinger. She's going to give her side of the story. What questions or what reactions do you have about this? I don't know what else to say other than this was just bad. You guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments about this whole situation. How do you stand? Do you feel like, Colleen is definitely seems remorseful of the situation? Do y'all feel like, no, this is just an excuse? How do you feel of, the two people that interview her? Like, I'm on the fence on this one. I don't like it, but that's just my opinion. Was not a fan. Y'all let me know what you guys think in the comments.